Hello and welcome back to Mother Tongue, your eyes, ears, and finger on the pulse for all parents around the world. Let's get going, shall we? We are so incredibly excited to welcome Justine Dampt to Mother Tongue. Justine, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited too.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to be here. I mean, obviously, you and me go way back. I feel like we've crossed paths at so many different times in our lives. But this is your first time on Mother Tongue and your first time being introduced officially to our community. So, for everybody who does not know you, can you just tell our lovely listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So first of all, you can hear it from my accent, but I'm French. So my name is Justine. I'm French. I live in Dubai for the past 12 years. I've been abroad actually for most of my life. I'm a business owner and I'm a mom of two. So I think and I'm an amateur triathlete. Maybe, yeah, that's a good overview of who I am, I think.
Just a few things, just a few things. Obviously, you mentioned there that you're a mum of two, and I really want to come on to your story and your motherhood journey shortly. But before we go into that, I wanted to talk about your business hats because I know that you've done so many different things in the entrepreneurial space, and you're forever trying to expand and grow and chase what's next, all whilst raising two little children. I know so many mums out there who are kind of doing the same in terms of starting a business, launching a business, and trying to run a family. What advice and tips have really helped you on your journey to kind of trying to manage both?
Well, first of all, it's a roller coaster. Like, don't think anyone has it all figured out. Doesn't matter how big or small your business. Like, I'm sure it's a working process for everyone. So let's start with that. Like I don't pretend that I have like a magic recipe or tips, and I'm sure you speak to a massive billionaire. I'm sure you speak to Kim Kardashian, and like I'm sure she's still like telling you like, well, with the kids and the business management is probably a working process for everybody. First of all, I started my career as an entrepreneur, so it's not like I never had the journey of being in a corporate and having a proper 9 to 5 and then switch it to something being self-employed. I started my first business when I was 21 years old. I was back then in Egypt. Then I moved to Dubai because of the Egyptian revolution. I worked for a big US media company where I learned a lot of like structure that really helped me later on when I implemented different processes in my next business. So my journey has been like mostly entrepreneurial in different countries, in different industry, but mostly in the food and wellness industry. So I started a plant-based vegan snack company back in 2016, 2017. It was called NCAS. I had different range of products, and then I exited that in December 2019. So I'm now the founder of Shake Your Plants. It's a functional drink company. Maybe we'll speak about that a little bit later. But yeah, so how I organize my day, we are based in Dubai and in London. So I'm mostly working in Dubai. I'm working, actually, I am here today out of a place called the Bureau. It's a fantastic business center. And what I find very helpful is that you have a strong female founders community, and all the facility here I feel is meant to support women. For instance, there is a breastfeeding room. Like it's just like small details, but it's really helping me to find communities and places that support the lifestyle that I have, because like I say, it's all a little bit hectic. For the first months of my son's life, both of them actually, they were with me, like at the office. So like you need to find the community, the places that will welcome you and that you will feel comfortable to have this kind of like like I would say extraordinary. It's not like the proper 9 to 5 office life. You need to find structure to support that.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you mentioned the Bureau there because it's such a fabulous place. I love it.
I love it. Really, like every day today, I was like literally pumping in the room, and I was like, I'm so grateful that I can do that in like kind of a like it's a cute place. Like it's not like a bathroom, it's not like a pod in the middle of a room where like you feel like awkward to kind of like go to, and like small things. There's a little fridge. So I think all of these kind of things really improve. It looks like nothing, but it make it possible in some ways,
Mm,
because then you're like thinking, oh, where am I gonna, I'm in the office. I want to go back to the office, but I cannot because I cannot pump. And then, okay, I can pump in my car, but then you need to have like a cooler, like then it starts to become like such a big thing.
yeah.
Literally, Zadig was like 3 days old, and I was like, I want to go back to the office. I'm not going to go back for 12 hours, but I want to pop out for like a few hours. And it was like, yes, I know there's going to be a cool place to change it, to change him, and I'm going to be like safe if I want to, like just relax with him in a quiet room or something. So yeah, I think it's very important to have this support in terms of infrastructure and community, like that works together.
I wanted to ask about this. So I went back to work very early with both my kids, but the first two kids, and this time round, I'm going to take a maternity leave, and it's something that it's very important to me, mostly because I think my mental health really suffered because I went back to work so quickly, mostly because I did not know where to draw the line. I didn't know where to stop the work. And I feel like it's lovely to keep your brain moving. And I would love to be able to dip in and out for a little bit, but it's something that I've definitely not been able to master as a parent. So, how did you make that clear disconnect or that clear cut in your day between I've now done 2 hours of work and my business is done. I'm now going home and I'm spending time with my newborn.
Well, once again, like this is a work in process, progress, like, work in progress. Um, um, and I'm just gonna go back to your question, but jumping on that, like I have my 2.5 years old who keep telling me, no, there is no time. I have work to do. I have to go on a call. And like when you see like the child kind of like pick that up, of course he's picking that up from me and my husband, and you're like, okay, there's probably like better limits and lines that needs to be drawn, like for him not to feel this way that he has to be on the call and like on the meeting. But yeah, I feel like the life that my life partner, my husband, and I picked, there is no limit. Means like we have the flexibility to do a lot with our kids, but that goes with kind of like a work life, like there's no balance. Everything is kind of, like we had the chance
Mm,
to go back in Europe for the entire summer, but then yes, we will take occasionally like call in the weekends, and like of course in the evening and all of that. So I think first of all, it's whatever works for you. So I made the choice not to have any maternity leave, and that's not because, I mean, the business always need it for sure. Like it's a small business, so if you're away, like things are not moving, that's for sure. But it's as well for my mental health. I truly love what I do. I build it from scratch, and for me, it's not, I'm happy to be back. Like, it was a choice for my mental health. It was
yeah.
never perceived as an obligation that I need to work. No, I really wanted to do it, and I was doing it. I was once again like not working 12 hours per day. I was coming, trying to sort out the urgent stuff, and then I think the best things to that I start to implement now is to stop the notification on the watch and stop, like looking at my phone when I'm with my kid. So I just
Yeah.
put the phone away, put the notification down, and the time that I have with them is just like like full on with them. Um, and even if it's shorter, and I need to like step out for 15 minutes and look at what's happening, and then I go back. So the thing, since I have two kids, I think what changed is that I work less on the weekend. Now I just try, unless we have an event or something really important or an emergency like logistic, I try not to be around my phone that much, and like really keep work at the
Separate.
minimum, like yeah. But it's like because of the nature of my job, and because my husband as well has the same kind of vision, is yeah, is as well a partner in his company, a founder and a partner of his company. So it's very difficult to have like a clear cut,
I can
and I'm
imagine.
sure you feel the same, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's for you, yeah.
Anyway, moving on to pregnancy. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with your first child, please?
Yeah. My first of all, I was sick every single day.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah. So I got very lucky because I mean, my story we'll see is like can be very sad, but can be as well like perceived as a lot of like very happy event and very like a lot of luck around like the birth of my two sons. First of all, I got pregnant very quickly. Like we were like kind of saying, yeah, let's try to have a baby, and literally, I think I was pregnant like a week after. So so like you count your blessing. That was one of them. We didn't struggle at all, but then I really struggled during the pregnancy. I grew up with the idea that pregnancy is not a disease that you can carry on with your life and like you can do whatever you want. But like the fact is, when you're a business owner and you train for triathlon, you absolutely cannot go on with your life the way you were when you're pregnant. And I think it took me time to accept that. It took me time to adapt my training. It took me time to adapt my work. Like I was literally carry on with the same rhythm and like waking up early and training, and you can't do that in the first trimester. I was literally exhausting myself. That was aggravating all the nausea and the disease and the sickness, and that was yeah, I was just really mentally unwell. Not happy to see the changes of my body, not happy to have to adapt. Like I was like, wait, like you work so hard to become who you want to be, and then suddenly I felt like all of that was taken away from me. I just didn't know. Okay, I cannot. What am I doing for training then if I cannot, like cycle the way or running the way I was like? So it took me a bit of time to adapt. Finally, he came, and I felt like relief. Like I felt relief that this pregnancy period was over. I did not enjoy it, and of course it's kind of still a taboo to say that, because like everybody's like, oh, it's such a beautiful thing and you must be so happy, and of course you kind of waiting and looking forward to meet your kid. But if I'm being totally honest, I think I was depressed most of my pregnancy. I survived on grapes and sparkling water. I couldn't eat anything, and it was a very very tough time, to be honest.
And the birth itself, how was that?
The birth was magical. Like was I all of like I gave birth, we'll go to that, but I gave birth like three times in 2.5 years. So I feel like I can speak about birth a little bit. But my first birth was a water birth. I had a fight with my doctor though, but I felt very empowered because of all the sickness during the pregnancy. I started to research a lot about pregnancies, about giving birth, and really I became very passionate about alternative or holistic ways to give birth. More, I would say, traditional ways that used to be like less medicalized ways to give birth. And I find a lot of like different podcasts in English and in French, a lot of literature, and I became really like obsessed with the challenge of giving birth naturally. And really, I took it like a physical and mental challenge. So I got ready for it as if I was like entering some kind of race or something. And so all the acupuncture, the physiotherapy, the like you name it, I did it all. But that resulted in me being like very prepared, but very confident in my body, in my ability to give birth by myself. Like a confidence that could not be shaken up by anything. And luckily, medically, everything was wonderful for my son. So all the stars aligned, and I had a quick water birth delivery, and yeah, it was magical to meet your for the first time your baby.
Yeah, God, that sounds so much nicer than my first birth. Um, but then you obviously you mentioned there that you've given birth three times in the last 2.5 years. You then got pregnant with your second child, and I know this wasn't quite the outcome that you had expected. Can you talk us through this experience?
Yeah. So everything about this pregnancy was extraordinary, like out of the ordinary. In all honesty, I got pregnant when I was breastfeeding, and I didn't even know that I could get pregnant at that time, basically. And so this baby arrived. I got pregnant when Ulysses was 8 months old, so quite close to each other. And the pregnancy, I was less sick. I was struggling a little bit again with the idea of like reducing my working hours, my work, my changing my training, and seeing my body changing once again. Like I always had like some kind of like issues with seeing this my belly getting big, and yeah, so I was mentally still struggling, but physically I was in a much better shape and mindset, I would say. um, and then what happened is that around the 8 months visit, I was feeling very heavy on my belly. Like it was just, I felt my belly was very hard. It was, I feel my own body I was losing weight, but yet my belly was growing. So I was telling my husband, I feel I'm about to give birth. Like there's so much pressure. It's so heavy. It's weird. It's a little bit early for that. So then we went for the 8 months visit, and as soon as we arrived, they did an ultrasound and they saw that something was off with the baby. The baby was not moving properly. I had a massive excess of amniotic liquid. And mind you that I was running a 10K 2 weeks prior to that. So, like I was like kind of confused on the reaction of the doctor, because it seems that it was a very, very big issue. And yet, like I was feeling unwell, but it became very bad very quickly. It aggravated very quickly. And I was very confused on like how serious that can be, but very quickly, they made additional tests, and very quickly, my doctor here in Dubai told me, look, there's something very serious with the baby. I don't know what is the condition. I think there's so much amniotic liquid that's what's like kind of avoiding the baby to be able to move properly. But I do think that there is other issues with your baby. That's why you're producing so much amniotic liquid. And so we came back the next day, did additional tests, and from that day, the doctor was very straightforward and told me, your baby has such a serious condition that even if you give birth here in the UAE, there's very little chance that your child will survive. So you are a French citizen. The best thing that you can do is basically fly to Paris. She was a very connected doctor. She organized everything for us in one of the most prestigious hospital in Europe called Necker, which is specialized in child and mother health. And she called the head of service that she knew, and she sent us over. We flew very quickly, but by the time I take the plane with the pressure and like, I literally thought I would give birth in the plane. Like by that time, I my belly was like contracting. The belly was very hard, and I had a 15 months old kid as well to handle. So all of that was um, very overwhelming, and then we didn't know, like what was the condition. So you start to think about like, oh, what's going to happen, and you're thinking, okay, if this baby is in, it's going to have to come out, right? Like in some ways. um, and then we as soon as we arrived in Paris, they kind of identified what was the condition, what they thought was the condition of the baby. And once again, in a very straightforward way, but we appreciate the honesty. They told us that our baby, we didn't know if it was a daughter or son at that time, had what they call a de novo disease. A de novo disease is some kind of genetic mutation that comes in a very random way. So basically, what we've been told is like, sorry guys, bad luck. There is one on like 100,000 people, and today it's on you. And what we don't know is that you have thousands of those disease, like that exist. Sorry, it's the first time I'm speaking about it, and yeah. So you have thousands of families and young couple, and that go through what we've been going through. Only in this hospital, it's probably 7,000 a year. So it's not. I don't want to scare people, but it's much. And when you start speaking up about it, you realize that it's much more common than what you would think it is. Once again, I'm not saying that to scare people. I'm saying that for people who might go through loss during pregnancies at whatever stage, I just, like, you're not alone. Like it happens, like from, like the early weeks until, the last weeks of pregnancies. And and then, so that was a Friday. From that day, from that time, they told me we're gonna review, because I reached a point where I could barely breathe, because I had so much
Mm,
water that keep coming every day. My belly was getting harder and bigger like I felt every hour. So they say we're gonna remove some of the amniotic liquid because you need to be able, like, we understand that you're in pain, and that can trigger, of course, delivery because you're so close to term. So we're going to keep you in the hospital. They remove 4 liters of amniotic liquid. With these 4 liters of amniotic liquid, I was still in excess
oh my
of
God.
yeah. So the amniotic liquid was still in excess. So imagine, like, how much, like, liquid I was producing. So they wanted to keep me overnight. I begged them. At the time, we were staying in an apartment in Paris, Avenue de Suffren, which is very close by the hospital. My parents were here. My son was here. So, like, very quickly, I was able to mobilize my tribe.
Mm,
My best friend's apartment is like literally one street away from the hospital. So, we really mobilized everyone, and we were lucky in a way that everybody was here for us. And because the apartment was so close, the hospital allowed me to go back home, which was so important for me, because like, you're so confused. You know that there's a massive issue with your baby. You don't know if the baby gonna make it. Imagine you're alone in the hospital, and I just wanted to be with my son, with my parents, with my husband. So we had one last day together around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We decided to take a walk around the Eiffel Tower, and I kind of knew that will trigger delivery. The hospital, we had an appointment on the Monday. We were supposed to go on Monday, and they were supposed to speak to us about, what's going to be the options. So options being, termination of pregnancy, option being having the baby being born, and implement or not different cares to keep the baby alive. I'm sorry, I'm going to go in the very raw details,
mm,
but
mm.
that's the reality. Please feel free to edit. So you, once again, in Europe, you have different options. So we knew on Monday that we would have to make decisions, sign documents, and decide on what to do. I And then, I kind of knew that that Saturday I knew I would not go through this meeting. I knew that I would give birth naturally over the weekend. I felt it. And then I started to, as soon as we went back, we took a picture, and I told my husband, this is the last picture we're gonna have with our 2 babies alive.
Mm.
You know, because when she was inside me, I knew I knew I could protect this baby, but I knew this baby had to come out, and the outcome, I don't know. I don't know, my instinct. I felt that, or this baby, I thought it was a boy, by the way. I thought this baby is not going to make it. So we took that picture, and then we went back home, and then sure enough, I started to have contraction. Labor was very quick, very, very quick. The time I got ready, of course, they had told me to come back at the hospital as soon as I had my first contraction. We got ready and we went right away. I arrived, I was already 8 centimeters, in less than an hour, like in like 45 minutes, because there was so much pressure because of the excess liquid amniotic that was pressuring so much that, when I arrived, like I was already like in late labor, so like in pain, and and yeah, and then suddenly I had like a team of like 15 people around me. Mind you that, in France, my main doctor is on leave on the weekend, like it's the French, they like their weekend. So uh, so my main doctors and the people, all the doctors, by the way, it's not one doctor. I had like, on that Friday, we spent the entire day in the hospital. We've seen like so many doctors, but mostly people were on leave that weekend. So it's only people that were on duty, but they were aware of my case, thankfully. And then suddenly I have, yeah, a lot of people. What I didn't know is that you could be dilated 8 centimeters, but then when your water broke, it's either everything goes through and your baby kind of like go through with the waters, or it can do some kind of like um, some kind of
Suction.
aspiration. It can some kind of suction,
Yeah.
and basically the water can go and the baby can go up, and that's what happened in my case. So at that stage, the midwife, I didn't want an epidural. I don't do well with needles, and I gave birth to my son. I had such a beautiful experience. I knew, I was like, I can do it. I don't want an epidural. The midwife was like, look, I think you should take it. We don't have very much time. You need to take the epidural. It's a very different birth. You're not in the mindset. You should take it. And I didn't want to. And they literally forced me in a, how can I say, in a kind way, but they kind of forced me into it. So the poor guy that was doing, his name was Abdel Rahman. I really remember, if he ever listened to this podcast, like the guy was yelling at him. And but anyway, they did the epidural, and then it was just a matter of hour until, like the baby was out. When the baby came out, the baby did not cry, and it was taken away right away. And basically, when the midwife came back, she told us that that we had a baby girl, but the baby that she was dead. She did not
Oh.
she did not make it. It's a big effort to for a baby to come out. So um, yeah, she came back. She asked us, like, uh, sorry, can we pause? I would just need to go get a tissue.
Yeah, of course. Take your time.
Sorry.
No, no, take your time.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
So basically, when the midwife came back, she told us that the baby didn't make it. And then, they're very well trained. They're extremely well trained in France, especially in this department. The midwife was absolutely amazing, and she said the right thing at the right time. Of course, most people who go through this kind of experience, they have much more time than we did. Like, we had just a few days to, we thought everything was good, and then we
Yeah.
suddenly discover we have a problem, we have to fly, and then literally the next day we're in the hospital, I give birth, we don't have a baby anymore. So like most of the time you have like a week to get ready to prepare. And she keeps saying that. She's like, look, you, everything is going to be very quick, but like you're going to have to make decisions right now. And then she explained, like, first of all, do you want to go, do you want to see your baby now? Do you like, this is like all, she gave us like a lot of documentation about um what's going to happen with the baby after, like, she asked me like, do you want to dress the baby, do you, like all of these questions that you like, it's unreal. How do I go from decorating the room and like doing your pelvic floor exercise
Mm.
to how am I going to dress my dead baby, like in like just a few days, so all of that seems like absolutely unreal. And when you think, like you go down, it seems that there is always, like it seems that it's without hand, like on the horror, if I can say, because then you end up yeah, decide what do you do, so very quickly, um, so we decided to see the baby. So very quickly we decided to see our daughter, and then I wanted to go home. I wanted to see my son. So I gave birth in overnight, like at 4 a.m., and I was at home at 12. So basically they let us go, and we were supposed to come back the next day, but like they understand as well that you don't want to be around families and babies, like in the hospital. So they manage everything for you to be able to leave quickly. Um, and then we came back, and then what really helped us, and I know it's going to sound like very morbid and very weird, but what really helped us is that we were able to go see our daughter every day for how long as we wanted to, for 10 days. So for 10 days, you go, and it's at the morgue. They have a small like living room, and everything is cute and made, for you to be able to sit down and tell song and tell her like about who we are, and the family that she had picked, and tell her about the family, the brother, show her a picture, and then you can even bring like different type of clothing, and they dress up the baby, and then she's ready when you call before, and then she's ready to see you when you arrive. And I know that sounds like awful, but really that steps really help us. And after 10 days we planned her funeral, and she is now in Paris, in Père Lachaise, and we had like a small ceremony for her, where everybody let go some balloon, eco-friendly balloon, I want to say, and 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 then we try every day to make her life not only part of our family story, but as well to give her a purpose. And I was telling you about how it helped us to go see her. We realize in many places, including here in Dubai, that you don't have the ability to do that. And we partner up with a company called Napta Health to give, it's called Kettle Cod, and it's like little beds that allow, basically the babies when they passed away to be kept in the cold, so parents can spend more time with them before they're basically taking away from them. And I don't know if that can help other families, but that really helped us. And in the name of Angie, we did a few initiatives around coping with the loss of a child at birth or in the first days, or in the last weeks, for whatever time. And I hope, like that her life and her story can really help other families that find themselves in the same situation than we did.
I mean, you're so incredibly brave for sharing this story. I cannot even begin to imagine the grief and the heartache that you went through. I mean, it's not fair for anybody to have to go through that. It just is not. No mum should ever, no parent should ever have to lose a child. But you've been so incredibly strong, and I know you personally, and I've seen how you've come out of this the other side so much stronger, and all the change that you've made. What advice can you give anybody who's going through similar grief? Because I can only imagine in those moments you just think there is no way up from here. I mean, how do you take those steps forward?
Well, like yeah, I mean, you go through it all, and plus, mind you, that you're so vulnerable when you give birth.
No.
So, like, I mean, you've been through postpartum, so, like, you have your milk coming out, you have, like, um, your entire body is looking for your animal, your entire body is looking for your baby. So it's, I think, like, I was very, how can I say, I was identifying that they were my mental health and they were my physical health. And of course, like, all of that is linked. So I came out of the hospital, I think I've never been thinner. Like, I was like probably 45 kilos. I couldn't eat, I couldn't. So I recognized that, like, I need to be physically healthy to be able to survive physically. And then there is, like, my mental health. And very quickly, you have this kind of survival instinct. At least I did, like, have this survival instinct of, like, okay, I need to drink and eat. At least it doesn't have to bring me any pleasure, but at least just enough for me to be able to stand up, and for me to be able to say hi to my kids and be able to read him a story. And then and then, like, the mental health, like, will take time, but I'm going to start step by step. But I remember very clearly, like, having a kind of a point of inflation where I can be depressed and I can cry all day and nobody's going to tell me anything, because that's my right. I can do that. I really, like, this is no problem at all. Or I can try to get up out of bed and and try to go back to what makes my life so great. But both options are okay, whatever I feel like on that day. So, like, it was not putting I didn't put myself under pressure. I was just like, okay, how do I feel today? What do I want to do? Do I want to cry all day today? And if it's a day where I cry all day, that's okay. If it's a day where I want to, I don't know, have a call with my team at work and shake out how things are going, it doesn't have to be like an 8 hours working day. I can just do that. And slowly by slowly, luckily, once again, I have a job that I love. I have a team that I love. That, it was a pleasure for me to be like, like, for 20 minutes I didn't think of it today, because I was, like, speaking about work. So, like, step by step. And I think what really helped me as well is to try to keep once again, like, my basic needs on checks, meaning, like, try to sleep, no screen. I didn't have any screen, I didn't want to speak to anybody, so no phone, no screen, except when I wanted to reach out to someone or have a quick call for work or something. But no, just I was reading books, I was journaling a lot, and then I was keeping, like, really, like, no sugar, no processed food, because I knew, like, all of this kind of mess up your mind, like the sugar, like. So I just wanted to eat, like, real food and keep kind of, like, in my bubble. So that's how I, like, did it, in the beginning, um, and months after. And then, of course, comes the group therapy, like, then once again, the journaling. I've done, like, a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, a lot of group chat with people. Like, so for some reason, it feels good to share your story with others that have been through something similar. And that is a very interesting thing, because I think it feels good because you feel they understand what you've been through, but also I think there's always someone that has something even worse than you. So there is like kind of like, I don't know if it's like been studied before or not, but
Mm,
I feel these kind of groups, you will always find someone for your kind of like judgment and your kind of understanding. I was coming back from these groups and I was telling my husband, we've been so blessed because, so and so, like they had such a worse story. Or, like I was thinking about these moms who that their first kids, they don't even have, like another kid, or, like they could never be pregnant, or, like you find so many people that have even worse story than our story. So that was giving me as well, kind of like gratitude in what I have. So and then of course, months of therapy really helped me. Yeah, that's I wanted to do that for me, but as well for my kids, for my son, for my husband. I think it was important
mm.
to go through this healing journey.
I want to move on to something slightly more positive because you have
Yes.
recently given birth to a beautiful baby boy, but that must have been in itself massively challenging to go through a pregnancy again with the anxiety around getting to that end point and going through the same thing. How did you know, firstly, when you were ready to go down that path again? And how did you manage the anxiety during your pregnancy with your baby boy?
So I knew I wanted a kid right away. Like it was no question for me. Like once again, the animal instinct. I look for my daughter for like weeks and weeks when I was waking up at night looking for my baby. So I knew, and it was not kind of a replacement or anything like that. It was just like I needed to be a mom physically.
Mm.
So I got pregnant once again, like knock on wood, quite quickly as soon as I got my period back. So that was in May. And yes, I think I was not in the right mindset. I think I was not ready. I think it was too soon. And I ended up losing the baby at 11 weeks. The heart
Oh,
stopped. And that was exactly, like 6 months after, by the day, it was exactly 6 months of the birth of my daughter. So, like I thought, of course I felt very sad, and like a new life, and you very hopeful, and like, but then I knew that this little soul came to us to kind of tell us like, look, I'm gonna try to come, but I think you guys are not ready, and I'm gonna show you that you're not ready. And and I got it. I was like, yes, like it's just not the right time. So we waited a couple of more months, and we got blessed again, and we got pregnant. So yeah, it all came, like kind of quickly, but in the same time, I think that it came at the time where we've done the work. I was much more confident in my ability to grow the baby. I never thought, and that's as well interesting. You go through different motion of grievings, but I never had the guilt, because right away when we knew we did everything we could to save our baby. I'm not going to go into like different details, but like we did everything we could. So I never felt like, okay, I did something wrong. So from there, I was able to gain my confidence quite quickly, and in my ability and in my body to grow a healthy boy. But yes, of course, like this pregnancy, every step, I don't think I told anyone that I was pregnant until I was like maybe 6 months pregnant. Like I think
mm,
I told my colleague at work, like, that sees me every day, when I was like probably like 5 or 6 months pregnant. So it's
mm.
I didn't tell you until I was like very late, you know. So
Mm.
it was, yeah, I was like very cautious. Every appointment, I had the need to go often see my baby. So you know, like I would just like, and thankfully I find a team, a medical team that understood that. But I had to change, like I think I changed 5 times my doctor,
Yeah.
and I was once again, I think at that time I had gained the confidence to say it's my baby, it's my body, I can do whatever I want. If I need to change, I'm going to change again, and until I find a right match for me. And it doesn't mean these doctors are not good, it means that they were not good for me at that time, because
Mm.
I wanted someone very with a very strong medicalized view for the pregnancy, but a very holistic approach to birth, and I wanted to do a water birth again. And thankfully, I find the right doctor. I absolutely love her, Dr. Dima in Dubai. She's like, I would just not have another baby without her. And she got me. She got me like deeply. She got my husband as well. That was like very important, you know, like
Yeah.
it's a team always when you give birth, you know.
Sure.
And we had an amazing doula, which we had as well for my son Ulysses. So you know, like we had the full team: Brittany, our doula, Dr. Dima, and the birth was yeah, was very quick again. Like gave birth like in 1 hour. I arrived at 7.5 centimeters and just had time to go in the pool. And it's never easy, but you know, I pushed him out and he came, you know, like quite quickly.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And I mean, how do you feel now? Like obviously you have your little boy who's with you, two little boys. I mean, it must still be a daily struggle, I can imagine. But do you find that every day you're feeling more confident, more yourself, I guess?
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, I think birth is a transcendental experience for a woman. It can be, you know, like
Mm.
I know you can, everybody has their own story and their own way of handling it. For me, handling it in a traditional way, meaning giving birth like kind of by yourself with hypnobirthing in your
Yeah,
bubble, that's where I feel I have the control. And this feeling is so powerful that, you know, both of my boys, after I gave birth, I was so empowered. I was like, I did that. Like, I mean, there's nothing, you know, like that I cannot do, you know, like you feel
yeah,
so powerful, and you know, like you have this fire in you. So that's what gave, you know, the birth of daddy like really like gave me a strength and a power that only birth and like going through this extreme experience can give you as a woman. But now, you know, like of course it's a daily struggle. Like I say, it's a work in progress. Now we have to deal with Ulysses, who's like 2.5 years old, who starts to understand a little bit more, you know, like the family dynamic, and he understands life around him much better. And then now, you know, on our last day in Paris, for instance, we visited our daughter, and then that resulted in many questions, you know, like, and until, you know, a few days later where he was asking more questions. And of course we don't speak about Angie every single day, but we speak about her on a regular basis. It's important for us, for the boys to know about her,
yeah,
and whatever questions, you know, that they will have, you know, we're trying our best to answer. So now, you know, we're dealing with Ulysses, who's kind of like trying to figure it out. Why can't she come? You know, like he's always like, well, if she's stuck in heaven very high in the sky, why don't we send her like a tow truck, and then, you know, like that, you know, like the truck can help her to go down, and then, you know, like she will be with us, and you know, we have the stroller and she can come with us. So you know, like he has like this entire
oh,
story. And then, you know, like you try to explain, and it's a very difficult thing to explain, but you realize as well that for kids, death is not a bad word. You know, for them it's like, okay, you live and then you died, and you know, they don't have like the entire charge, emotional charge, and weight around that, you know. So it's an
yeah.
interesting journey. to go through now with both of them, because it's, once again, it's part of our family story.
Yeah. Gosh, you are unbelievably brave, honestly. I can't,
Um,
brave is not even the right word. I mean, it's so much more than that. I just, yeah, you're incredible. Honestly, hats off to you for being so brave, and thank you for sharing your story. Honestly, I know I don't, obviously we don't want this to freak out anybody, but I also think that knowledge is power,
I
and
do.
knowing about this, the different outcomes that happen sometimes is powerful, and I feel like more people need to share and speak up, so we're aware, essentially, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But moving on to more positive things before we round up this episode today. Firstly, what is next for you, Justine? What is next on your horizon?
That's funny, because when I was preparing this podcast, I was like thinking, like what's next is like the World Championship of like half Ironman in December, and like like go go, like as soon as I gave birth, I was in the water. Next week, the following week, like training for my swimming and all of that, and then a few months down now, I'm thinking, that might not be what I want, and I just want to focus on my breastfeeding. I enjoy breastfeeding. I breastfed my son, Ulysses, for 1 year, and I want to do that for Zadig. And that's going to be my challenge, because as a working mom, it's already like to be able to breastfeed fully or pump or whatever you do, like, but still breastfeeding a child. It's required a lot of time, a lot of like logistics, and I want to
Yeah.
focus on that. And my business, there's a lot of things into, like, we're launching new products. There's a lot of like things happening. We're going to have a big PR campaign for the end of the year, with a TV show coming up.
Woo!
So, like new products again in the pipeline, new locations, as well, new geography opening. So I think, focusing on those two things, from a personal and a professional point of view, I just want to prioritize all of this great time with my boys and my husband, and I want to go back into training, but I probably don't need to put pressure, on myself to do that race at that time. So that's
Well done,
my
you.
good resolution, and that's how I feel at the moment.
And we always say goodbye with one tip and one product from our guests. So if you were to leave us with two nuggets, what would they be?
Well, SIP, that's for sure, which is
Yes.
so SIP stands for Shake Your Plants, and it's functional drink in sachets. So gut health is everything, which is like probably like maybe another podcast. But so so that's I think my product, like SIP gut health kombucha really helped me for many different ways during all of these different changes. So that's the one product, and the other tips, that I will give to, every mom to be or mom, is some kind of like physio or exercises around the pelvic floor. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and really, as a runner, like I would just say, like, do it as soon as you learn that you're pregnant. Research it. Try to see a physio expert. There's so many exercises to do from day one, until like postpartum. But that's will change your life.
Love this. I love this. And Justine, for anyone who wants to reach out and say hi, where can they find you?
Oh, my Instagram, Justine Dampt, or like on the Instagram of Shake Your Plants.
Love this. I'm going to link all of this in the show notes, Justine. Thank you so much for being so incredibly brave and sharing your story with us today. We've loved having you.